Substance abuse problems, the untimely death of a sibling, financial struggles towards the end of his life. James Caan may forever be remembered for his iconic role in The Godfather, but his personal life had its fair share of tragedy. Sonny Corleone ended up defining James Caan, but it didn't help that, not unlike his character, he was a little wild. Caan has done drugs, been married various times, and famously established a residency at the Playboy Mansion. Since he was a kid, he actively engaged in what he called non-Jewish activities, which included boxing, bull riding, and getting himself into trouble. Because of his public image and aided by his real-life persona, studios were keen to pigeonhole Caan into a traditional masculine role. For example, he played a metastasized version of Sonny in Michael Mann's 1981 Thief. Caan went on to play similar masculine roles in The Gambler and The Killer Elite. In an interview with The Independent, Caan bemoaned the lack of choices he was given, telling the interviewer he was either Mr. Tough Guy or Mr. Hero. Although that might seem like a great problem to have, Caan thirsted for something more challenging. If there was a role that would have won James Caan an Oscar, it was Sonny Corleone in The Godfather. That was Caan's sole Academy Award nomination, which became a source of regret in his later years. In an interview with The Independent when he was 80 years old, Caan admitted to really wanting an Oscar and being bitter about not having one. Caan believed that his real-life persona and public image became a distraction for Academy voters. Members of the Academy were more concerned about his sex life than they were about his acting, and asked him questions to that effect. They kept up on the latest tabloids, and so Caan's celebrity eclipsed all else. But even Caan's co-star Al Pacino stood no chance for an Oscar. That year, 3 actors from The Godfather took up supporting actor nominations, including Robert Duvall, likely splitting the vote between them. Pacino even boycotted the ceremony since Marlon Brando received the Best Actor nomination, not him. Caan agreed that Pacino's demotion made no sense, according to The Independent. Not finding the roles he wanted, James Caan decided to take matters into his own hands. He wrote and directed the 1980 family drama Hide in Plain Sight. It was a film about a father who discovered that his ex-wife and their children had entered a witness protection program. The film, which was based on a true story, followed the father's search for his family, who were being hidden from the mafia. Film critic Roger Ebert gave it 2 stars and said it lacked quality screenwriting and direction. It had a limited release and only grossed $3.8 million at the box office, per IMDb. But Caan believed in its potential and blamed the studio for its lack of impact. An executive at MGM and the head of the film's distribution company United Artists didn't share Caan's vision. The exec kept giving him notes and questioning his directorial style. Because the film had no sharks in it, a likely reference to the mega-hit Jaws, Caan told The Independent, "These 2 idiots over at MGM didn't know what to do with it." Hide in Plain Sight opened to little fanfare. It received good reviews, but by then it was too late. He called the film one of his great disappointments and comforted himself by the warm response from his friends, which included Dustin Hoffman. Even Francis Ford Coppola told him it was among his 5 favorite films at the time. With a lack of varied roles and typecasting, along with the disappointing release of his directorial debut, James Caan began to feel frustrated by the film industry. After Hide in Plain Sight, which reinforced his view that money, not quality, drove the industry, Caan starred in Neil Simon's 1979 movie Chapter 2, but the marketing pushed Caan aside and put the spotlight on his co-star instead, Marcia Mason. He felt betrayed by producer Ray Stark and Simon, whom he felt underestimated his intelligence. Caan was vocal about the directors he didn't like. He and Alan J. Pakula, who directed him in Comes a Horseman, didn't mesh well together, and Caan compared the filmmaking experience to prison. He even walked off the set of another movie, The Hallcroft Covenant, and was replaced by Michael Caine. Caan was also frustrated by the volatility of the industry and his ever-changing public image. Speaking to Rolling Stone in 1981, Caan said he acted for respect and satisfaction, and not happiness. Yet each time he reestablished his name through good work, he ended up on a tabloid, only to tarnish his progress. It's hard to think of an actor who missed out on more roles than James Caan. There were some parts he didn't regret rejecting, such as a starring role in Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Coppola tried to convince him to join the cast, telling him that they would live in Manila and fly to the set on a helicopter. But Caan hated flying, and he also hated tsetse flies. Additionally, Caan was concerned about his pay. When bringing the issue up, Coppola waved him away, allegedly dismissing him with the remark that actors were only interested in money. There were other roles that Caan really did regret passing up. The first was Milos Forman's classic One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Caan rejected the lead role in the movie 4 times, believing it wasn't visual enough. The part ended up going to Jack Nicholson in a career-defining role. Caan also came to regret rejecting the part of Ted Kramer in Kramer vs. Kramer, which ended up going to Dustin Hoffman. He reportedly believed both One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Kramer vs. Kramer would become box office bombs. According to Mental Floss, other roles Caan turned down were Gene Hackman's role in The French Connection, Richard Dreyfuss's role in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and Christopher Reeve's part in Superman. In 1981, James Caan's younger sister Barbara died from leukemia. He was devastated, especially since he considered her to be his best friend.
And when I lost her, I couldn't handle it. I didn't know what to do.
In an interview with The Independent, Caan said she was the only person he knew that he was afraid of. Barbara ran his production company, was his assistant for his directorial debut Hide in Plain Sight, and was a producer's assistant for the film Thief. She had a passionate demeanor with every project she undertook, and Caan adopted that approach to life after she died. But he also adopted some self-destructive habits, including cocaine usage. Caan described his drug abuse as a death sentence. To make matters worse, Caan lost his savings due to bad dealings by his accountant, leaving him penniless. Disillusioned, he took a break from acting while trying to piece his life together. During that 6-year period, James coached his son's baseball team. It was then that he experienced a rude awakening that forced him to quit drugs. His son threatened a drug dealer with a baseball bat and nearly tried to kill him. With the help from a friend's intervention, he entered recovery. His final stint in rehab came in 1996. James Caan's attempts to re-enter the industry were a struggle. His first film after his hiatus was Francis Ford Coppola's Gardens of Stone. Caan considered it his official comeback, but according to his interview with The Guardian, Coppola had to go out of his way to get Caan cast in the film. Studios were hesitant to give Caan a second chance, distracted by his reputation and the potential insurance costs. It was then that Caan realized that absence didn't make the heart grow fonder, it just made them assume he was dead. The Gardens of Stone was stymied by Coppola's grief over the death of his son, and Caan didn't have faith in the resulting product. Needing cash, his next project was a sci-fi buddy cop film called Alien Nation. His only hope was that it was commercially viable. However, friends in the industry continued to fight for his reemergence, and he was able to achieve a second chance. Rob Reiner was able to cast Caan in Misery, Warren Beatty got him a cameo in Dick Tracy, and James L. Brooks got him a part in Wes Anderson's Bottle Rocket.
The most important thing is you learn how to win and you learn how to lose.
James Caan was always a roughhouser from an early age. His favorite pastimes as a child were boxing, bull riding, and getting into neighborhood fights. When Caan once went missing from a movie set, the producer, Ray Stark, suggested that he was probably at a nearby alligator farm wrestling an alligator, according to the Los Angeles Times. Caan's wild manner was part of his legend, so it should come as no surprise that he always found ways to get injured. In 1985, he got into a car crash after driving too fast on a road and hitting a tree. But it probably wasn't his fault. He wasn't drunk, and he said his brakes failed on him. Then, in 1989, Caan flew off his Harley-Davidson after a car swerved near him, landing him in the hospital. Since the actor wasn't wearing a helmet, Caan also lived out his childhood dreams of being a cowboy while participating as a healer for team roping at a rodeo. But it landed him in a tough position when his thumb got caught in the rope and was pulled back to his elbow, nearly tearing it off. He had to present himself to the Queen of England alongside co-star Barbra Streisand with his thumb sticking straight up in a cast, which he said made his hand look like a foam finger. James Caan's last divorce was a messy one, and according to his court documents, it was leaving him broke. He accused ex-wife Linda Stokes of spending his money to the point where he was forced to act in bad movies in order to recuperate. He was also said to have mounting medical bills and medical problems that he couldn't afford treatment for, leaving him in poor health. This was in addition to the nearly $96,840 he was spending on his son, who was in college. Caan was afraid that his recent acting roles, chosen merely to pay the bills, would ruin the reputation he built for 50 years. One particular role he emphasized in the court documents was his part in the low-budget campy horror Sicilian Vampire. Only 50 people attended its New York City premiere, according to Fox News. Caan starred in only 3 scenes, and much of the film's budget went to his paycheck. Caan wasn't even present for the film's premiere at the dubious Big Apple Film Festival. At 81 years old, James Caan still had hopes to make a great movie. In a 2021 interview with The Independent, Caan compared himself to Henry Fonda, who hoped to make a great movie before he died. Caan identified with that same lack of satisfaction and with the thirst to do good character stuff while he was still physically able. One of the last challenging roles Caan had was his part in Lars von Trier's 2003 Dogville. Caan aspired to make another movie like it and ended his interview with a message to directors that he was ready for another major film. In a 2021 interview with CBS, Caan said he had no intentions of slowing down. He enjoyed the respect that came with acting, along with the ability to reinvent himself with each role. Caan passed away on July 6, 2022, at the age of 82, but he very nearly received one heck of a final role in the movie Uncut Gems, according to directors Josh and Benny Safdie. The brothers wrote in a tweet that after Adam Sandler rejected their offer of the role the first time, James Caan was their next choice for the role. The director shared in a tweet, "After Sandler first rejected us, our instinct was to cast James Caan as Howard. Obviously, it was always Sandman's part, but in the air somewhere is a version with Jimmy Caan. Rest in peace." Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more grunge videos about your favorite actors are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.